Imagine a tiny blood filled death trap in your skull where infection can spread like wildfire and a single clot can cause blindness. This is cavernous sinus. And today you will master this sinus with Anatomy Student Zone. I will also explain the 5 key structures and their clinical significance. Before I start this topic, I will recommend you to please go through this link that I am going to share with you. This link is of a Smart Physiotherapy Academy, and especially if you are a physiotherapist and you want to enhance your clinical skill, it will help you a lot. So moving towards the main topic, this is base of skull. You can see over here, this one is anterior cranial fossa, this is middle cranial fossa, and this one is posterior cranial fossa. So in the center of middle cranial fossa there is a sella turcica, and this is midline depression. In a simple word, I can say this is a depression in a center of middle cranial fossa. And this depression is present in which bone? This is present in sphenoid bone, and this depression contains pituitary gland. This is CT head coronal section. 44 labeled over here is body of lateral ventricle, 45 is third ventricle, but we are not concerned with that. We are concerned with number 46, that is cavernous sinus. So you can visualize this sinus over here. This is CT head axial section. In this image, 16 is crista galli, 17 is pituitary fossa, and 18 is pons. And again, we are concerned with that of pituitary fossa right now in this session that I am going to try to explain you. So 17 is pituitary fossa. In this image, you can clearly observe a middle cranial fossa, and in center of this fossa, number 17, that is labeled over here, is pituitary fossa. And on either side of this fossa, there is exact anatomical location of cavernous sinus that I already described you. So this is also a CT head, but this is axial section. 19 is gyrus rectus. Whether you can identify gyrus rectus or not, but I'm sure you can name the number 20. So yes, it's cavernous sinus with internal carotid artery over here. So this one is CT head sagittal section. This is going to show number 17 as in body of a lateral ventricle, 18 as in head of caudate nucleus, but we are concerned with 19, that is cavernous sinus. So you can also observe a pituitary over here, and again we can see the cavernous sinus is linked to that of pituitary. It's located on either side of it. So we have observed cavernous sinus on a CT in different cross sections. But if you are sitting in front of me in a viva of anatomy and I ask you what is cavernous sinus, can you answer that? If you can't answer, don't worry, take a deep breath and listen. The cavernous sinus is one of dural venous sinuses of head. It is a network of veins that sit at the base of skull on both sides of sphenoid bone and pituitary gland. It is approximately 1 into 2 centimeter in size in adults. And I have another question. What is a dural venous sinuses? If you are saying this is one of our dural venous sinuses, then what are dural venous sinuses? So exact answer of this question is dural venous sinuses. These are endothelial line channels. These are located between the two layers of a dura mater. As the name indicate, dural venous sinuses mean venous network, sinuses mean gap, dura mean between two layers of the dura. Dural venous sinuses, these are very important. They are having some special features, like all of you are different. One of you will be having different feature, another will be having different. So similarly, dural venous sinuses are also having some key features, and these key features are they are non-collapsible, they are having rigid wall because they are formed by a dura mater that maintains the patency. Another point is they are valveless, so blood flow depends upon gravity and the pressure gradient. And another important key feature is emissary veins. So, what are emissary veins? These are veins that connect these sinuses to an extracranial vein. And please remember over here, these emissary veins, these are potential route for a spread of infection that can occur in these sinuses. Now, if I talk about a cavernous sinus, that is today's main topic. It spans or its extent is from apex of a orbit, as you can see here, to the apex of petrous part of temporal bone. So it's going to extend in these area. Unlike the other dural venous sinuses, it is divided by the numerous fibrous septa into a series of small caves. Mean this one sinus is having multiple caves, and these caves are formed by means of fibrous septa. So the five must known structure in this cavernous sinus, you have to remember this, and I'm going to share a mnemonic with you, and this is O Tom Cat. O stands for oculomotor nerve, that is your third cranial nerve. T stands for trochlear nerve, and O stands for ophthalmic nerve, that is a V1. This is a first branch of trigeminal nerve. So M is for maxillary nerve, that is V2, that is a second branch of trigeminal nerve. And C stands for carotid artery, and especially internal carotid artery is going to lie in this cavernous sinus. A is for abducent nerve, that is your sixth cranial nerve, and T is for trochlear nerve, that is your fourth cranial nerve. So in a simple word, if you don't want to remember this mnemonic, I can say except first and second cranial nerve, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth, these are part of this cavernous sinus. But all the three divisions of five, these are not part of this sinus. Just V1 and V2, that is ophthalmic and maxillary division, these are part of this sinus. Now, if I talk about and give you a clinical scenario, I'm sure you are able to solve it out. Similarly, a scenario is a diabetic with a nasal boil develops a double VN. What is culprit? Of course, it's a cavernous sinus. As I told you, cavernous sinus can be a route of spread by means of a multiple pathway that I described earlier. Another case is patient comes to you with a history of a trauma, and you are going to observe pulsatile exophthalmos. It means red eye and the red flag. So you don't have to take it on a lighter note. Take it seriously, because a pulsatile exophthalmos or a pulsatile proptosis, it is a clinical symptom that is characterized by protrusion and the pulsation of a eyeball, and this can be linked with the carotid cavernous fistula as well. So in this case, you have to rule out that fistula. Similarly, if you observe a patient on a clinical side and you identify a pituitary tumor, this pituitary tumor, if it's going to expand into a sinus, it can involve cranial nerve 6 first. Why it's going to involve cranial nerve 6? Because cranial nerve 6 or abducent, this is the most medial most cranial nerve. So if a tumor is going to expand, first it will involve this nerve. Another is Horner syndrome, that involves a sympathetic plexus around the internal carotid artery. If it's damaged, patient is going to present with ptosis, meiosis, and anhidrosis. Now I will give you some exam tricks. You know cranial nerve 6, that is abducent nerve. This is the only nerve that is going to locate inside the sinus. Other cranial nerves that are located outside the wall, or we can say in a wall of cavernous sinus, not inside it. And USMLE love this question. Now, if I ask you a question, if I take a quiz or if I take your viva, and I can ask you which nerve is affected if a patient can't look laterally, and I'm sure your answer will be cranial nerve 6. Why cranial nerve 6? Because cranial nerve 6 or abducent nerve, it is going to supply lateral rectus muscle, and the function of our lateral rectus muscle is to pull outward. So lateral rectus helps our left eye to look left and our right eye to look right. And whenever there is a sixth nerve palsy, it disrupts the signal which are traveling through this nerve. It causes a weakness of paralysis of a lateral rectus muscle, and in this case, patient is unable to look laterally. So whenever the sixth cranial nerve is damaged, you can't move or align your eyes properly. And if an affected eye can't turn outward, it shows this is a damage to sixth cranial nerve. Before I end this session, I have a question for you. Which nerve is most commonly affected in a cavernous sinus? You can drop your answer in a comment box, and I'm sure after watching this video you all can answer this high yield question, because this is a favorite question asked in exams. Thank you so much. Please keep liking and subscribing this channel. Don't forget to like and comment. Thank you so much.